Okay.
Spooky season!
And I heard audibly, shh, she can hear us. And I was like, and then it goes silent.
Nope.
And then you're like, oh, did you turn on the lights? And she goes, yeah. Who do you think the gray lady is?
Okay, so I don't think the gray lady is Louise Carpenter.
Same. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about today's episode.
I am too. It's officially your favorite season of the year, spooky season.
Happy spooky season.
Happy spooky season to you.
And for those who don't know us, or maybe you do and you need a recap, I am Stacie Dotson, and this is...
I'm Hannah Thomason. I'm the archivist here. What are you, Stacie?
Oh, I am a librarian's assistant on the adult services floor. And this is Brewing Cups of Curiosity.
Ooh.
And this, if you didn't get it, this is the spooky edition. So...
what are we talking about today, Stacie, for spooky season?
Believe it or not, did you know our library is haunted?
What? No way.
I know. So before we jump into that, tell me a spooky story, a ghost story that's not library related.
Ooh, okay. So I actually went to Catholic school for kindergarten through 8th grade and then did like public school from there. But I went to what is known as Westside Catholic. Mm-hmm. So it's St. Agnes, Sacred Heart, and St. Boniface. That were like 3 schools, they turned into 1. And it was like such a big thing when you finally got to go to St. Boniface, because that was like the middle school. Okay, so like I'm there, I'm with the big kids, and St. Boniface has like a sort of like half basement area, and that's where like the kitchen and cafeteria is, and there's a set of restrooms. And so I get up from lunch one day, and I could have taken like the world's tiniest flight of stairs up to the restrooms by the gym, because for whatever reason that was the more popular restroom to go to. But I really had to go, so I just dodged into the women's restroom in the bottom level. And I go in whistling to distract myself from my urgent need. And the whistling continued after I stopped. No one else was in there.
Oh my gosh.
The lights of the bathroom were actually off, but there was like a big window on one end. And so there was enough light coming in that I was like, I have to go too bad. I don't know where the light switch is. But the whistling continued after I stopped whistling.
Was it the same tune that you were whistling?
Mm-hmm, the tune finished.
Oh, that's creepy.
The tune finished when I cut off mid-tune. And I mean, there was nobody else around. Like, there was nobody else around. Everyone else was in the cafeteria. Ooh. It was dark. There was no one there. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I can top that one.
Try.
Okay, so one of mine was when I was getting ready to move here from Washington State, and I remember like I thought I lived in a split level home, and I was home by myself. There was nobody there except my cat, and I remember like sitting there, and I thought I heard things like people walking downstairs or whatever, and I was like. You know, things creak and what it's an old house, and I went ahead and I thought I heard talking, and I was like, that's really weird. And so I unplugged the water fountain for my pets because I'm bougie like that, and because I thought maybe that was what I was hearing. Yeah. And I remember walking over to the edge, and I like peered down, and I heard audibly, shh, she can hear us. And I was like, oh God. So,
oh my God, dude, I just got chills.
So then, being typical, I call my sister, and I was like, hi. And she goes, hey, you're on speakerphone. I'm like, sweet. And she goes, what's up? And I'm like, so, and I tell her what's happening. I go, and we had like a sliding glass door, and there was like these big like sticks. And I'm like sitting down there, I grab it down there. I'm like, I'm going downstairs. I go out to see if there's anybody down there, and she goes, what happens if there's somebody down there? I'm like, then I'll swing away. That's why I'm on the phone with you. Also call 911. Went down. There was nobody down there. And I was like, oh, okay, cool beans.
I don't know. I think that yours was creepier because a ghost was like acknowledging your presence.
Oh, that's not the first time. That house was super haunted, but that's the creepiest one out of all of them because I was actually home alone.
See, like, I don't think anybody had ever, like, people like jokingly talked about like, hoo, the school's haunted because it's like, it was a really old building. Like my sisters also went there, and it wasn't until like my youngest sister was there that they finally put like central heating and air in the building. Like, they were still using the old radiators, and the art teacher had to tell all the kids not to melt crayons on the like 1930s radiators. So, so like,
I bet the radiators were really pretty though.
In the art room, they were.
Yeah. So
how are we haunted, Stacie?
So I'm going to give you a quick rundown. So in 1937, we had our first ghost sighting here at Willard Library. It was downstairs in the basement, and our custodial staff at that point in time came in early one winter morning, stoking the coals to the furnace to heat up the building because radiators didn't exist then. And all of a sudden he felt like there was another presence there or somebody else there. So he calls out like, hey, and nobody answers. And he comes face to face with this woman who's transparent, but she's gray, and she's dressed in Victorian garb. So it's the high neck collar, her hair is up, and she has a gray veil on her face. And then she just disappears.
That's spooky.
And he is the only employee on Willard record that has left employment due to the ghost. So,
and the OG ghost story.
And the OG ghost story. So yeah, so that's a quick rundown about that. So our first sighting, and then we do offer ghost tours during October of every year. So please check out our website for that and register for them. They are quite fun, and each ghost tour is different because each person or each host does it differently. So
I mean, we have what, like 80, almost 90 years of ghost stories that everybody gets to pick and choose from.
So my favorite ghost story, and it was one like you said, you're like, oh, I got the chills. This one gave me the best chills. Like, you know, I work in a spooky building, and I live for spooky season. Like, I love paranormal stuff. I think it's great and fun. And reading the script for the first time, like the stuff that we need to go over and talk about with people, that was the first one that I like literally was like, nope. So in our break room, we have nothing fancy in there. We have our lockers and coffee and typical break room things. Yeah. And there's a phone in there as well, just because sometimes we end up having to call for people like, hey, Hannah, I have a patron here that needs you. And you're like, okay, and you run out because you're getting coffee real quick or whatever. Yeah. So every morning when we open up as a staff on the adult services floor, when you call and we're not there or you leave a message, it goes to our floor. And so we, take the message and transfer it where it needs to go or give you a call back or whatever it is that you need. So anyways, the light was blinking and we checked the messages. And there was a lot of crackling, and then all of a sudden you hear breathing, like someone going, and then it goes silent.
Nope.
And then you're like, oh, that's fun. And it tells you, at the end of the message where it comes from and the time stamp on it. And the time stamp was like, I think either like 1 or 3 a.m. Probably, I think it was 1 a.m. And it came from the break room.
Nope. Nope.
Like,
nope. No.
Okay, what about you?
Okay, so maybe it's because one of my first unexplainable spooky events in my life happened with a bathroom. But my favorite ghost story. So for those who visit the library today, the public restrooms are in the new addition to the building. That addition's about 10 years old. And so what are now labeled as the staff bathrooms were bathrooms that they added in the late 70s, early 80s. But before that, there was a bathroom under the stairs. So if you're ever walking around this place and you're like, oh my gosh, what are all of these doors? And you're at the bottom of the stairs and you're like, oh my gosh, what is that weird door? That is where the bathroom originally was for the building. So that bathroom, you had to like go to the children's department to get the key, staff or patrons. Even though you had to get the key to go to the bathroom, there was still like one stall for the toilet in there. And then there was like the hand washing sink, and that was also the place for like the utility sink for custodian or, you know, children dumping out paint or whatever.
Multi-purpose room, yes.
So a library staff member from the first floor goes down to the children's department, gets the key, goes to the bathroom, is the only one in there, and both sinks turn on full blast.
Oh, nope. I mean, if you didn't empty your bladder before then, you definitely did now.
So this librarian, I mean, she's in the stall. No one else has come into the bathroom. It's just her, and this is like a long time before the library got automatic sinks. Like now, you know, like you wave your hands, it turns on.
Yeah.
Long before that.
Like the actual knobs.
The knobs. Yeah.
Whichever.
Full blast. And then it goes off. And she was like,
nope.
And she was like, hello, anyone there? No one was there. So then she takes the key back to the children's room, and oh gosh, I'm getting chills talking about it. So, and I think that there were security cameras then too, and so the librarian goes back, and these are, you know, really early, you know, security cameras, you know, at the very beginning of security cameras for us. And so she goes back and says to the librarian, you know, oh, like something really weird just happened in the bathroom. And the children's librarian is like, you know, I was just looking at the cameras, and one of them got really weird. And the only thing that they could come up with was the ghost.
Which is kind of par for the course whenever the ghost is caught on camera. But
yeah,
it's not just our old bathrooms that have had like spooky experiences. What about our new bathrooms?
So then this is my favorite follow-up to it. When they open the new edition, okay, you know, people come through now and they're like, you know, oh, is this part of the building haunted? You know, or, oh, it's probably not haunted because it's new. Actually,
lies.
They, you know, so, you know, it was a huge feat for them to add on to this historic building 10 years ago. I mean, there was a lot of regulations that they had to follow with being in the National Register of Historic Places and all of that. So they took a lot of great care. And so, you know, in getting it open, you know, it's, you know, this really great thing that they want to show off to everybody.
Yeah.
And the toilets will not stop flushing.
Are the toilets automated?
The toilets are automated. But the toilets wouldn't stop flushing. And they bring in, you know, plumbers, and they're like, we just paid you to put these in, like, you know, like these things have to be working. We have all kinds of important people, you know, coming in and taking a look at this, and the plumbers, you know, they tinker with it, you know, they replace some of them, and like at the end of the day, they're like, we literally don't know why all the toilets just keep flushing constantly.
It's so weird.
And then after, I think it was like a few weeks, that just like stopped happening.
It became old news. Like, it's fine now.
Yeah. So apparently the ghosties were, you know, playing with with the new toys in the building.
Okay, so also, it's not a new toy, but the elevator is also a popular hotspot too. And actually, this is me as well as a few others, staff members. We were doing, during the pandemic, we had like one ghost tour, just one. And we had to keep it small because of the pandemic, obviously. And so it was after hours, and it was myself and two other staff members. And we finished the ghost tour and get everybody out of the building. And part of our security is that we go through and make sure like everything is gone, or everyone's gone and everything's been shut down. And we were doing we're downstairs in the basement. We did archives, we did the hallway, checked the break room. We're getting ready to do children's, and we're just kind of, you know, chit-chatting, and all of a sudden you hear the elevator go. And if you push our elevator button, the elevator room is actually downstairs in the basement, and you can't mistake the noise. Like, you hear it go. And my eyes got big, and I looked at my coworker and I said, that's the elevator. And so we both run that way, and the elevator's running. And it didn't come down to the basement. And at the end of the day, staff take the elevator from the basement to the main floor. So since it didn't come back down from the basement and it was rested on the first floor, it only went to the top floor. And so we're kind of just sitting there, dumbfounded. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden, the lights flicker on. And my eyes could not get any bigger. I looked at my coworker, and his eyes are also really big. And, my third coworker's nowhere to be seen. And he calls out, he's like, hey, did you turn on the lights? And she goes, yeah.
Oh my God.
I think I collapsed on the floor and freaked out. But I mean, that part wasn't spooky, but the fact the elevator was running by itself was like...
But the timing, like your adrenaline is already running from like, is someone else in the building or is it just the ghost playing with the elevator?
I know.
But the ghost has been known to play with the elevator.
Yes.
And
one of the reasons, there are many reasons, but one of the reasons why on the top floor we actually keep the elevator locked, because the doors would constantly open throughout the night, and Barry Plastics would be like, hey, just so you know, your elevator's going off. But that's not the only reason why we lock the elevator. We also have old rare books that we need to make sure that don't wander off.
Yeah, because the majority of their collections reference.
Absolutely, and they're irreplaceable books.
Yeah.
The other cool thing, and that is not a part of our normal ghost stories, is you and I have a shared ghost story.
Me too. I don't know that many people know our shared ghost story.
I don't think so, because I think, and here's the other fun thing, I don't think you and I have actually like sat down and like shared it together. Like usually when we share it, like we're sharing like as a whole.
Yeah, it's like a patron coming through and it's like, oh, has anything happened to you? And it's like, well, funny thing, this is connected to somebody else.
So I'll start because I guess it happened to me first, and then you'll finish. So during the pandemic, I also work downstairs in archives. Hannah is gracious enough to share her space with me, and so I help out down there. And I was covering the archives desk, and we still had face masks on. And I remember sitting down there, and it was really quiet, and I sometimes need to have like sound. So I'll play, like, lack of a better term, spa music. And it echoes so well in there that it's really low, and it's this beautiful ambiance. Well, sometimes, and I don't know about you, sometimes I get tired of sound and I want silence. It's almost like you've been talking on the phone too long, and I'm like, I just need silence. So I turn off the music, and I'm kind of sitting there, and I hear a woman sobbing. And not like, sniffles, like she is sobbing, but it's barely audible. And it's like, almost like, I was like, is it just my, the lack of sound playing tricks on my ears, or is it actually like someone crying? And I was like, it was loud enough and heartfelt enough in the sobbing that I thought it was a patron in distress, that I felt I should check it out. So I got up, walked down the hall, and it sounded like it was coming from the bathrooms, the new bathrooms. And I got almost to the door, and then the crying stops. And I was like, that's really weird. But the fact that it was loud enough that I was like, oh, I need to go check this out. I did go into the bathroom to see if there was anyone in there who needed some help. There wasn't anybody in there. I actually went down to the children's department, and I asked, did you see a patron walk down the hall on the security cameras? Did you have anybody crying in here? And she goes, no, I have these kids in here, but they've been quiet, picking out books. And I was like, no crying, no sobbing, like hysterical sobbing. And she's like, no. I'm like, oh. She's like, oh, okay. So anyways, I ended up calling my boss, who was working on the adult services floor, and she is the best secret keeper of all time. And I told her my experience, and she goes, are you okay? And I said, yeah. She goes, do you need to come up here and hang out with me? And I said, oh, no, I'm just letting you know. I'm good, but I was just letting you know. So, and then shortly after, you were hired, and then a couple months later...
So I initially started as part-time under the previous archivist. And so I had only been here for a few months. And, there are some people who come here and they're like, I've worked here for years and I've never had my own personal thing. And then there are other people who are here for a few months. And then all of a sudden they're working on a Saturday on like the most gorgeous, sunny afternoon. There is like barely any patrons in the library all day because it is just so gorgeous outside. So it had been a slow day, hadn't seen hardly any patrons. Like there are some weekend days down in the archives department where you're like, well, I saw the mailman today and that was about it.
The highlight of my day.
So yeah, at that, especially during the pandemic time, like we were counting the mailman. And so I'm sitting there at the reference desk and all of a sudden I hear this boo-hooing coming from up the hallway and it sounds like a woman and she sounds really sad. And I just like freeze at first because I haven't like seen anybody all day.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't even really heard much from like the children's department up the hall all day long. So all of a sudden to hear crying, I was like, oh, and I'm new still. So I'm like, what's the protocol? What's the procedure? Like what department head is on what floor? All of those like, new person thoughts that like are racing through my head first. And by the time that I start to get up, it stopped,
Okay.
and so,
Like got up from the desk and you reached like the carpet?
I don't remember that much.
Okay.
But by the time I had gotten up and like to go look, it stopped. And so, nobody had been down there. I went and I double checked the bathrooms, but nobody had been down there. I couldn't see anyone in the hallway. So I just like finished my workday. And at the end of the day, I asked the children's staff member that was working, I was like, hey, was everything okay in your department? Like I heard crying earlier. They're like, oh, I didn't hear any crying. I didn't even have any crying children today. It was such a slow day. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think that I also was conveniently working that weekend with your boss, and I said something to her and she was just like, oh, that's weird. And you say she's like the best secret keeper ever, but...
Well, you didn't say not to say anything.
Okay, true.
I mean, so when that happened, I don't know but to be fair, I don't know when she told me. Like, I don't know the difference between like when you told her and when she told me. Like, I don't know the
I think it was like that Monday.
Was it?
Yeah.
So I come into work and she said, oh, she goes, did you talk to Hannah? And I said, about what? And she goes, oh, she heard Phantom crying. And I was like, shut the front door. So then I run downstairs because Hannah happened to be working. And I was like, you heard the crying? You're like, you heard the crying? And we had this like validation station of like, I wasn't the only one who heard it. And I don't know, like, that just makes me really happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not happy that the specter was sad, but I'm happy that I'm not crazy.
And it's never happened again.
No, it hasn't.
Like of all of the weekends, as quiet as it has been,
and that's been like what, again. 3 years?
3-4 years now.
3-4 years, and neither one of us.
Yeah. It's just wild.
Maybe now that we're here together, they don't feel sad no more.
Maybe. Okay. So that's a lot to digest.
That is a lot to digest.
So in part of our introductions, we forgot to introduce what our brews were today.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to start?
I am actually vibing with green tea today.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think this one is some kind of berry mix. I know it had a specific berry, but don't ask me what that specific berry is.
It tastes good, and that's what matters.
Oh, yeah. What do you got?
So I have ground coffee from home. It's like maple bourbon. I get it from Fresh Market. It smells delicious that even my staff members who don't drink coffee are like, that smells real good.
I know a lot of people that don't like the taste of coffee but love the smell of coffee.
It smells really, really good. I am a huge fan. I do also grind my own coffee. I'm also a coffee snob.
Yeah, we've established that.
So that's what we're drinking. What are you reading?
So, I think last time I said I was waiting for John Stamos's book.
Uh-huh.
So good. So good. And then that got me onto doing more of the autobiographies. So I read Leslie Jordan's How Y'all Doing.
I love that book.
I listened to Leslie Jordan's How Y'all Doing. And oh my God, hearing him talk about his little pony and his chaps.
It was such a good book. Oh, he was adorable.
Oh, I know. I had vaguely knew who Leslie Jordan was. When his Instagram took off with the pandemic, that was when I had, learned more about him and all of his friends.
He didn't understand what went viral meant. He thought it was an illness.
So he's in the pandemic and someone telling he's viral, and he's like, I'm fine. So I just finished that, and
I love that book.
I don't know how I'm supposed to move on to something else, because it's so funny. I just want him to tell me his life story again.
I mean, you could always listen to it again.
I can.
I love it. Unfortunately, I'm not doing something as happy. I'm doing Home is Where the Bodies Are.
Fitting for spooky season.
Yes. Fitting for Stacie season, which is all year round. I like a good spooky book. But yeah, Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. It's okay. I don't think it's my cup of tea 100%, but I'm already so far in the book that I want to finish it, because I'm already so far in the book and I can add that to my goals list. So, yeah.
So I got to ask though, because I think for the last couple of months you were reading the was it Fourth Wing?
Oh yeah. So
you were like I'm still chugging last time.
So good.
So how much longer after that did it take you to finish it?
Not long. I think it probably took me about a week, because I went hard. It got real good. And I know there is also a comparison between Court of Thorns and Roses, there we go. Which I have also started. And I mean, it's decent. I've noticed that people are either obsessed with it or they are just eh. It's a decent enough series that I will finish it. I'm slowly trudging through it, but the Fourth Wing series,
because Stacie loves spooky season and spooky things, and Stacie loves dragons.
I do love me some dragons. So, back to our spooky episode, and since you are kind of our historical guru right now, who do you think the Grey Lady is?
Okay, so I don't think the Grey Lady is Louise Carpenter.
Same.
Louise Carpenter died in 1908. The first haunting happened in 1937. The whole theory is that she did it because she was mad at her dad. But I think if she was really mad at her dad, she wouldn't have waited 20 years to make herself be known. I think there would have been a sighting of her sooner than that. And also, the Grey Lady is mischievous. The stories, who give us the heebie-jeebies, make us jump.
Playfully
but they're
mysterious.
They're not things bad enough to be trying to ruin the library or shut it down.
I think the fact we deem the term friendly poltergeist. Continue.
So that's why I don't think that it's Louise. I think that also Louise didn't die in Evansville either. So I don't know. Seems like a long way for a ghost to travel.
Sure.
I much more prefer the theory that the Grey Lady is a ghost that was transferred here. So there have been, over the years, many different, mediums and, other paranormal experts that have come through, and many of them have said that the ghost is tied to the land, not the library, and that the ghost is tied to water. So, what else happened in 1937 that altered land and water? Yes, the Great Flood of 1937. So, this is not the theory that I started, but...
No, it's a theory a staff member started. It's me. I was me. I started it.
It is the theory that you started, but after doing my own ghosty research into all of the lore, your theory that the Grey Lady was a ghost that was transferred here by the 37 flood, and that she's just kind of hung out, had a little bit of mischievous fun, I don't know, maybe she's protected the library.
Maybe. Absolutely.
And maybe she decided that she, you know, likes it here.
I agree with you.
That's my favorite theory.
Like that's exactly it. Like I have nothing to add to that because here.
Mike?
Yep,
drop.
Exactly. Well, I think that's all what we got for today because we're out of time. But thank you all for hanging out with us today. This is fun.
This is fun. So since it is spooky season, if you don't have your Halloween costume yet, or if you need some spooky merch, please make sure to check out our Printify store. You can find the links everywhere across our social media. If you love library content, spooky content, please make sure to go back on our YouTube channel. We have lots of spooky content there that we've done over the years. And make sure to follow us on Facebook, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, all the places, so that when spooky stuff happens, we do occasionally record our live actions and live reactions and put that on our social media. So follow us all the places. If you have any questions you'd like us to answer, I know that we would love to do a Q&A episode one day. So please send those in to us, drop them in the YouTube comments. And until next time, bye.